All right, we're joined now by one of our favorite guests, our favorite uncles of this podcast. He is what I like to call the Phil Rivers of sports media right now because he's like retired, but he's not really retired. Like he'll be back at a moment's notice. He's kind of still doing stuff with Broadway Sports Media, which he was doing stuff before his semi-retirement. I don't know. It's hella confusing, to be honest with you. But you can still find him on Twitter, tweeting as good as any Twitter follower out there, Titans Twitter follower out there, at Mike Miracles. So give him a follow. He is Mr. Mike Herndon. Mike, dude, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us.
Wow, I can't believe you had to throw the Titans Twitter follower qualifier on there, man. I was about to be really flattered.
That was really rude of me, wasn't it?
You had to go throw a qualifier on it that really it completely ignores my contributions to random food takes. Right. my dalliance in Braves baseball these last few months.
That's right, Mike. I've seen that. He kind of boxed you in.
Look, here's my reasoning. Here's my reasoning, Mike. Okay. We host the Tighten Up podcast. Okay. And I feel like, I don't know this for sure, but I get the feeling that like Jack and I, towards the end of every one of these podcast episodes, we get so loopy because we've been talking for so long that we start talking about the most random shit out there.
Dunkaroos.
Yeah, Dunkaroos.
Betting each other on whoever's going to be the first to die. I mean, it gets dark sometimes.
It gets really weird. And I feel like our listeners hate that when we do that. Like, we went onto a whole take about college football last week and like seeing if we could name the national champions since 2000. It was really weird. And so I feel like our listeners just don't like that. So I started to say you're one of the best follows on Twitter, which I don't disagree with. But then I was like, no, you know what? Our audience will be more prone to follow him if we just say Titans Twitter follows. Mm-hmm. And then they'll go out and follow at Mike Miracles on twitter.com.
Well, I do appreciate that. Yeah. Rope them in with the Titan stuff, and then I'll nail them with all the all the random stuff that I can.
Yeah, right. That's what we do with this podcast. We rope them in with the name being Tighten Up Podcast, and then we just start talking about just whatever the hell we want to for that amount of time. But Mike, let me you know how we do our heavy lifting up front. We like to do our toughest questions, just get it out of the way right here, right now. Some people say that the Titans were even greater than the gods. Mike, my question to you is, do you think because people say that is why God hates the Titans?
Probably. I mean, yeah, he probably took that a little personally. Like, I think God has a lot in common with Michael Jordan, just, based on my knowledge of both those guys.
Right.
And so I think, kind of how Jordan took everything personally.
Yeah.
He probably took that a little bit personally and has decided to smite them at every given possibility.
Yeah, no, I see the meme right now in my head. It's just God sitting on that couch just saying, and I took that personally, That is
exactly. That is the meme that was in my head when I started making that conversion.
That is where we're at because Mike, I just don't get it, man. It used to be like last year, the Titans were so great, but they had a terrible defense. And then this year the Titans were so great. And then Derrick Henry, one of his foot fell off. So like, I just don't know. I don't know what to make of this. Like, I'm so down in my feelings right now. Is there anything you can do to kind of talk me off of the ledge?
Well, here's the alternative way to look at it, right? So, Derrick Henry kind of did get them through the toughest part of the schedule, notwithstanding this upcoming game against the Rams. But after that, the schedule eases up quite a bit. You still got 3 with the Jaguars and Texans combined left on the schedule. So he got you through the toughest part, and you knew they weren't going to rest him, right? Like Mike Vrabel just cannot help himself but give Derrick Henry the ball as many times as possible. And I feel like maybe this was the only way that they were going to be able to rest him at all for the playoffs was for a bone to break. So they decided, all right, what's like the smallest bone that we could break on this gigantic human? And they said, all right, pinky. His right pinky bone, and so they snapped that thing. And so now he's going to get a nice, 2-month break, and he's going to come back pissed off and fired up for the playoffs because he was, planning on being the MVP and another 2,000-yard season and all that stuff. And he's just going to take it out on these poor, hapless defenses in the middle of January when he's fresh and rested and been on the couch for 2 months. So there's the Silver Linings playbook look at this whole thing. I mean, obviously it sucks, but I do think there is a possibility in all seriousness of him being able to get back for the playoffs based on everything that's out there, all the, the football doctors that always pop up on Twitter whenever something like this happens. Most of them are saying, 8 to 10 weeks. The playoffs start in 12 weeks. So, there is time for them to give him like real time to rest and real time to get right and potentially come back for the playoffs. Because look, this team is going to make the playoffs. They unless you believe Carson Wentz is going 8-1 down the stretch and beating teams like the Bucks and Cardinals and who else? They've got the Bills left. I mean, Carson Wentz is not winning 8 more games this season. Unless you believe
Nick
that,
Foles isn't walking through that door behind him,
Right. Exactly. So, unless you believe that, the Titans just have to win the layups. Like they just have to beat Miami, Jacksonville, and Houston. And if you take care of business in those games, you're going to the playoffs, you're winning the division, you're getting a home playoff game. So, that's the bare minimum. So this is a playoff team. I think Henry will be back for the playoffs, despite what Adam Schefter keeps fear-mongering out there on ESPN. That's just what I think is realistically what's going to happen. They're going to win the division. They might even stay afloat in the 1 seed race because, if you can get Julio healthy, you've still got Julio Jones and A.J. Brown on the same offense, which is pretty awesome. And Ryan Tannehill's been really good. And maybe this is finally the time where Ryan Tannehill will get some respect that I think he's been way overdue, is if he can carry this team, down the stretch to 12 wins, maybe you finish, 6-3 over these last 9. I'm still getting used to this whole 17-week thing.
Yeah,
So
right.
Coming up with the numbers in my head is difficult, but 6-3. If he goes 6-3 down the stretch with no Derrick Henry, do we finally say, all right, maybe Ryan Tannehill is actually good at football and not just being drug along by Derrick Henry's excellence? I think so. So I'm hoping that's the timeline that we get here.
I kind of want to take this down that road. I want to put a little spin zone on Derrick Henry not being available for the stretch run of the regular season. Could that possibly be a good thing for this Titans offense and learning how to win without the run game, without Derrick Henry? And I mean, the last 2 games, Derrick Henry really hasn't, been the guy he was for the first 6 games, but they still found a way to win, beat good teams. Could this be good down the road? Maybe Ryan Tannehill and Todd Downing and Mike Vrabel even learn a little bit about this offense and what they can do without the King being effective.
Yeah, I do think that's an interesting way to look at it, and I do think it's an opportunity for them because, I mean, they talked a little bit in the offseason about expanding the passing game, expanding A.J. Brown's route tree. They went and got Julio. They didn't go get Julio because they wanted to not use him, right? And obviously the injuries and stuff like that with him have been a problem, but luckily, even with the hamstring stuff just kind of lingering, it's not something where Julio's going to miss the rest of the year or anything like that. They're eventually going to have him healthy and playing football across from A.J. Brown. And I think, not having that crutch of 22 in the backfield, maybe we do see stuff that a lot of the fan base has been clamoring for years, some more play action passing on early downs, less of the run pass stuff, which, it's understandable when you're doing it with Derrick Henry because he's liable to pop a 80-yard touchdown run at any moment. It's going to be less understandable if they're doing it with 36-year-old Adrian Peterson and Deontay Foreman. So I do think they're going to have to evolve the offense a little bit. And if they're able to find a mix that works without Henry, and then you can eventually throw a healthy Henry back into it in January. Man, that would be an excellent turn of events for the Titans. And I don't think it's crazy to think that that's a possibility. I really don't, because they are going to have to evolve the offense and in ways that a lot of people believe is the right way to run offense anyways in the NFL in 2021. So I'm excited to see kind of how this whole group responds, because one thing I think we know about the Titans is they're very tough, they're very resilient, and you probably shouldn't count them out even when it looks like all the chips are down against them. So I think it's exciting in that sense to see what Todd Downing does, because frankly I think Todd Downing's been pretty good so far. I mean, that offense has clicked along despite really never having the healthy trio of Julio, AJ, and Derrick Henry together. Really, they're probably not going to have them for almost all season. Besides, ironically, I think the Arizona game, maybe the one game where they were all kind of clicking on all cylinders. So it's going to be interesting to see.
It's like the Brooklyn Nets last year. They had Kyrie, they had Kevin Durant and James Harden, but they couldn't get all three guys on the floor at the same time. And we saw what happened to the Nets when they met the Bucks in the playoffs. Today, the Titans didn't make any trades. The NFL trade deadline has come and gone without the Titans really making a major move. But they did. You mentioned Adrian Peterson, Deontay Foreman, a guy who they had on the team last year. Did they do enough? And should Titans fans feel comfortable with where that running back room is right now?
I think comfortable would be a strong word. I mean, we don't know how much juice Peterson has left, in all reality. I like Deontay Foreman, always have. I'm a little biased as a Texas alum, and having watched his incredible 2,000-yard season when he was in his last year at Texas. But Deontay Foreman looked good last year when he was here. And I think there's some issues with Foreman. I don't think he has the best vision in the world. I think he's physically got everything you want. I mean, the dude is a bowling ball at like 6'1" and 235, and he runs in the 4.4s. So this guy has legit physical ability, and he's tough to tackle. I mean, I remember watching him at Texas, and he would just bowl through guys. And this guy, if he can get in a rhythm, I think you could eventually see the talent. I mean, he was a third-round pick just a few years ago. And he had his injury issues, which, is part of the reason why he was let go from the Texans and, ended up kind of bouncing from team to team. But there is some physical ability there. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a hodgepodge between Peterson, Foreman, and McNichols. I think all of them will see some early down work. I think McNichols will definitely still hold on to his third down stuff. But I think you're going to have to lean on the pass game to some degree. That's really AJ. This is an AJ Brown led offense now, right? I mean, it's not whatever you get from Peterson, whatever you get from Foreman. It's not going to be anything close to Derrick Henry, but that's okay. I mean, there's enough talent on this offense to win and play good football and put up a ton of points without Derrick Henry being involved. And I think you saw that the last couple of weeks with. He really was pretty pedestrian against the Chiefs and the Colts, and they won both those games, and the offense looked pretty good doing it against, one bad defense and one pretty good defense that was pretty much fully healthy in that game against Indy. So, I think I don't feel great about the running back room, but I also don't feel like it's, a lost cause by any means.
Why do you think the Titans ultimately chose Adrian Peterson of all guys over someone like, I don't know, like Todd Gurley or at this point, Peyton Hillis or Reuben Drones, maybe Olandis Gary, I think is still has maybe got some mileage on him.
Yeah.
Frank Gore's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
He is. And I actually was trying to figure out if Derek Gore watching that Monday night game was just another, like if he just changed his name to stick around in the league longer or something like that.
Yeah, right. No, I was checking to make sure it wasn't. Well, I knew it wasn't his son. I was checking to see if it was his grandson.
It could have been. That is within the realm of possibility with as long as Frank Gore's been around. But I think Peterson, to me, it's an identity thing, right? Like that signing to me, as soon as they made it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what the Titans want to be. Like and we've joked about it for a long time, but the Titans just want to be huge. They want to be huge on offense. They want to bully you. All their receivers are huge. All their offensive linemen are huge. And then, of course, you had Derrick Henry, who was the biggest running back in the league, smashing the ball into people. So they want to be bullies. And Adrian Peterson is a bully. Like, that's how he runs. He runs hard. He runs physical. And at 36, that's still going to be the case. And look, this is the first time we've seen Adrian Peterson on an actual contender in about 5 years. I think since, at least since he was with, who was he with right after the Vikings? I can't even remember now. But I think he was on a contender. Yeah, that was no, they weren't a contender then. So yeah, maybe since he was on the Vikings,
Saints?
that we. Yeah, that's right. He was with the Saints briefly, but they still had Kamara and Ingram. I think he was just filling in for Ingram or something like that when he was there. So
is Adrian Peterson the Shaq of the NFL, where it's like
every teammate he's had? Yeah.
Yeah, but then at the end, it was like he just did a tour around the NBA, before he retired. Like, I feel like we're getting that with Adrian Peterson.
It seems like it, but I mean, if you look at Peterson's resume, like the only thing, like he's won the MVP, he's won like countless All Pros and Pro Bowl selections, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer regardless. But the one thing missing is the Super Bowl, right? And I think that's why he keeps coming back. I mean, obviously the guy keeps himself in peak physical condition anyways. I think he's just one of those guys that he'll probably be, 50 years old and still look like he could run a 4.5. But I think he's chasing the ring, and I think that's why he probably wasn't on a team. He wanted to wait till a contender had an opportunity open up where he felt like he could go in and contribute. And this is a great opportunity for him to step in and contribute and run in an offense that fits his style. And I think you're going to see a motivated and extremely fired up Adrian Peterson, which, look, they don't need him to last for an entire 17 games. They just need him to last 9 games, basically. And to do that with the help of Deontay Foreman and Jeremy Nichols and any other backs that may come or go off the roster over the next couple months. But I think you see him juiced up and ready to go and running through people. But I think that's what it is. It's a physical style that they want to play, especially as it gets colder, especially as it gets into the months where defenses are wearing down a little bit. And I think they want to keep that identity intact offensively. And I think that's why you saw him go Adrian Peterson over some of the other options that are out there. And frankly, Foreman fits that mold too. I mean, these are downhill, run through your face kind of guys. So I think that's exactly why they went this route.
Well, yeah. I mean, Steve Slayton and, Justin Vargas are just going to have to wait for another go round, I guess. But Mike, speaking of semi-retired dudes who are, looking for success, you haven't been on F Words Pod in a while. Are you just looking for that ring? Are you looking to join a team?
Are you ring chasing? Is that why you're on this week?
I'm just want to be, because look, and I haven't, not that I listened to that garbage podcast, F Words Pod, because, we have beef with them, but, I heard through the grapevine that you haven't been on the last couple of weeks because you are going through this semi-retirement phase. I don't know. Maybe you're coaching high school football down in Alabama or something. But I feel like if you are looking for that second shot, that chance to come back and win, I mean, look, Tighten Up Podcast. Like, I don't know, Jack. Maybe
I'll go 3, man.
We could find a spot for him. Yeah,
wow,
I feel like we could very easily.
Austin's about to have a baby. We may need to go paternity leave, Mike.
That's right. I'm going to be very tired in the coming weeks, so I need someone just to talk on the mic more than me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, baby will wear you out. I know from experience. It's what drove me into semi-retirement.
Yeah, you could be that veteran presence that this podcast is missing,
I mean, I'll be your Adrian Peterson, guys. Come on. I'll come in, step in. But yeah, it's baby life is tough for the podcaster because it's a lot of chasing. It's a lot of hey, don't do that. It can wear you down. It can wear you down mentally, physically, emotionally, the whole thing. So I feel your pain on that. But congratulations. It is the best. It is the best thing.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, Although I think our target demo, Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, is babies.
Yes, yeah,
because-
they are the only ones who forget to hit skip on the podcast.
Yeah. Right.
that explains why my son keeps coming up to me and going phone, and trying to grab it away from me. He's trying to get that download.
Oh
yeah, exactly.
He's trying to give us
4.5
stars to us and 0.5 stars to Buck as we share the podcast feed with him.
Mike,
that's right. Yeah.
Sticking one last thing with AP and well, I guess real quick, AP or AD? What are you calling?
Good question. Good question.
Ooh, that is the topic of the day. So I think I naturally go to AP more, and I don't know why that is necessarily. I've always thought the all day thing is just kind of weird. I get it's been his nickname for forever, but like you just don't ever hear anyone call him all day. So
right.
I just find it odd. So I lean AP. Frankly, I think the debate's kind of silly because the man himself lists both on his Instagram account, so it's like he clearly doesn't care either way. This isn't a jackrabbit situation where he's demanding AD and correcting reporters if they try to call him AP. I think I'm good either way. I will probably say AP or type AP because that's just what comes natural to me. And I think it's just weird. AD is a word. It's ad. Like I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
It's tough to acronym. I agree with you. It's a tough acronym to just pull out. But
and it's tough because AP though. Whenever you read AP, I always think Associated Press.
I do too. I
think Teresa Walker. I'm just like, why? Like
the journalist blood.
Right. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
But it could be, and actually, I think, possibly the way to go, just to avoid confusion, is just to call him Adrian Lewis Peterson every time we reference him by full middle name included.
Yeah, the full government. Yeah. Which, if you think about it, going back to the Shaq comparison, giving himself nicknames, I'm just, Shaq is the big, the Shaq Fu,
the big Diesel,
the Shaq. Yeah, right. I'm just saying, I think that's still on brand. I think Adrian Peterson is the Shaquille O'Neal of the NBA. Of the NFL.
I think that's fair. So we're hoping that Shaq this is his Miami Heat version.
Yep.
That's what we're hoping. Yeah, we don't want it to be like the Phoenix Suns, because that was not.
Yeah, we don't need Phoenix Shaq.
Or remember Shaq in a Celtics uniform? Neither does he.
Oh my God, I didn't even remember that happened.
White and green just doesn't look good on a 7'2", 320-pound man. It does
not. No.
But
no.
Last thing about AP and Derrick Henry, because I feel like that's the focus of this week. Yes, it was a great win against the Colts. But when Derrick Henry,
by the way, they're the number one team in the AFC, but
secured the division in week 8. But when Derrick Henry returns, if he is able to return, hopefully this timetable, is accurate and he's able to get back towards the end of the regular season. If not, the playoffs. What does that 1-2 punch become? Because Derrick Henry and Adrian Peterson, they have the same style. They're tough to bring down. They're both probably the only 2 running backs that I can think of that were built like this and, have this body type and frame that's indestructible. Obviously, a small bone gets in the way of that with Derrick Henry. But assuming that they're both healthy at the end of the season, what does that look like?
I think it'll still be like 90% Derrick Henry timeshare, if anything. Yeah, if they even keep Adrian Lewis Peterson on the roster. I think once Henry's back, and they probably will, just because there is a risk of re-injury with this, Jones fracture and all that stuff. Even if they do give him a little extra time to heal and all that stuff, I think you've got to have kind of your next best option available just in case. But I still think they go back to a big time Derrick Henry workload if and when he comes back for the postseason.
Just maybe not 26 rushes after he's broken his foot, right?
Probably not. Yeah. Honestly, looking back, it is unbelievable. 'Cause he didn't look quite like himself. Like, you could tell there was something off, but there were some runs in that second half where it was like, man, this guy, knowing now that I'm watching him run on a broken foot, this is unbelievable. The way he played to finish that game. I mean, Derrick Henry, like, you can't say enough what he is and what he's meant to this football team. And, like, the respect for that guy is just through the roof for everybody, and it should be. Like, that's one of the gutsiest, toughest performances by an athlete I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that is unbelievable pain. And I actually had a former, I think NFL tackle quote tweet the video that I put out about Henry making that 4th and 1 run late in the game with the broken foot and everything. And he said, I had the same injury that I suffered on a scoring play, and I had to hobble out there for the extra point. And he said it was all I could do to even, like, get in my stance and line up for one extra point. And he said, I have no idea how he, made 20 plus carries in the second half of that game, all on that broken foot. Like that, it's unbelievable. The toughness and the courage and everything else like that. And Derrick Henry deserves all the flowers from Titans fans. And I hope more than anything that this team stays afloat while he's out and he's able to come back and get the playoff run that he deserves, kind of coming back as a conquering hero late in the season. I mean, that to me is what this guy deserves, regardless of anything. I'm just rooting for Derrick Henry to have a happy ending to his season.
Any concern with the fact that Adrian Peterson is going to wear number 8 for the Titans?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's tough. At least it's not number 10. I think 10 is probably
10
the
is
most
cursed. That's
number.
Austin Stanley pointed that out to me before, and that is 1000% cursed.
And 13 is kind of cursed for them too. That one's been a rough one, but
is that the curse of Kevin Daft?
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Kevin
absolutely.
Daft. His name has come up on multiple episodes.
Does anyone remember Kevin Daft, backup quarterback in '99? Anyone? No.
I do not.
Okay.
No.
All right. Damn. Wow. That talk about a remember the Titan. All right.
Mike,
yeah.
A little more respect on Kevin Daft's name, if you guys could, please. I'd appreciate.
I will. Yeah. I apologize. My deepest apologies to the Daft family.
Mike, last question from me. Finally, talking about something else, something other than Derrick Henry and Adrian Peterson. Can this defense sustain what they've been able to do? Because we said before the season, if this defense can just be a middle of the pack, 14 to 18 type defense in the NFL, then this team has Super Bowl potential. Do you? And they've played up to that level so far. I mean, it's been a little rocky at times, but through the past, through this win streak, they've been steady. Outside of a couple pass interferences against the Colts. But is their level of play sustainable for the rest of this season? Do you think?
I feel like I need to whisper this because I don't want to say it outside, out loud and make it a target for the football gods to come after. But
okay, but then please whisper it. Then with that preface, please whisper it.
I think they're gonna get better.
Oh,
I think they're gonna get. I really do. I think I think Bud Dupree's only starting. He's really starting to flash now. We've seen him more and more as each week has gone by, look more and more like the Bud Dupree that, it was 8th in the NFL in sacks over the last 2 years before, suffering the knee injury. He's starting to come on. He made the huge play, obviously, to force the interception that Molden, returned 1 yard or whatever it was for the touchdown that put the Titans ahead towards the end of regulation. But he's showing up. He's making plays, and I think that's only going to get better as he gets more and more confidence in that knee. What we've seen the last few weeks was without Christian Fulton, who was without a doubt their best corner and arguably their best defender over the first few weeks of the season. He should be back in the next few weeks. Jayon Brown, who at times has been an incredible playmaker for this defense, has missed a big chunk of the season. He should be back soon.
Man,
and
it's hard
I think
to,
he's probably going to be back this week.
It's hard to pull David Long out at this point, isn't it? I mean, he's impressed everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's David Long's job now, but I do think, and they were hinting at this before the season in the preseason with their personnel packages and stuff like that. I think we're going to see David Long and Jayon Brown play together quite a bit on third downs and passing down sub packages and stuff like that. So I think you're going to see basically David Long be on the field all the time, and then Rashaan Evans and Jayon Brown platoon off of him. Which is, honestly not a bad situation for the Titans. So I think this group's going to get better, provided, they don't have any, devastating injury luck on that side of the ball. But right now they've had injury issues on that side of the ball, and they've kind of weathered them. And I think the talent, you're seeing guys like Elijah Molden is starting to make plays. Chris Jackson is starting to make plays. Janoris Jenkins, Jackrabbit, has been good the last couple weeks and is starting to come on a little bit. So I think you're starting to see some real encouraging signs from the Titans defense. And look, if that turns into a strength and they've got a good passing game and a good defense, that's a really good formula for success, regardless of what your running game does. And I think that's still available to them. So, I'm pretty optimistic about this Titans defense over the next few weeks. I mean, they absolutely made life hell on Patrick Mahomes and Carson Wentz these last 2 weeks. And I think this is, the quarterbacks are going to get a little bit easier. Now I know Wentz, went full Wentz there at the end of the game and was doing all of his crazy, it's almost like he wants people to intercept him.
Yeah.
But the quarterbacks are going to get easier in the back half. And who knows who the Saints are going to start against them next week? It's either Taysom Hill or Trevor Siemian, I think. And then you've got 2 games against Davis Mills or Tyrod Taylor, in a tanking Texans team at this point. You've got the Trevor Lawrence game left at home. And Trevor Lawrence just frankly hasn't been very good as a rookie, which is not a surprise given what he's surrounded with in Jacksonville. So the quarterbacks are going to get easier. I think the defense is going to start to put up some big numbers. I grabbed the Titans defense in fantasy a couple weeks ago, and I'm planning on riding them down the stretch.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at with this defense right now.
It's a Galaxy brain pickup.
Yeah, right. I like that.
It is.
That's always a you have confidence in a team when you pick them up in fantasy, because it's like you could talk this defense all day, but it's like put your money where your mouth is, and clearly Mike has done that.
Absolutely. No, I'm not messing around with fantasy now. My league that's been going, I think we're on like year 14 or something like that. I've won back-to-back championships. I'm going for the 3-peat.
All right. Mike, no one wants to hear about your we didn't bring you on to talk about your damn fantasy team, Mike. Oh, jeez.
The people are dying to know about my 3-peat.
Mike's been off a podcast for like 3 or 4 weeks, and he's just like dying to tell someone about his fantasy team.
His wife is tired of hearing about it.
Yeah,
so
right.
He has to tell us.
Yeah, he's only semi-retired because she won't let him fully retire.
That's exactly right. Right.
But I do love, speaking of the defense, Kevin Byard is playing almost as if Deion Sanders is going to forget his name again. That's how well he is playing, and it's good to see. Mike, I have one last question for you. And I know Jack wanted to kind of move on from the Derrick Henry talk, but I will never move on from the Derrick Henry talk. Obviously, I will never forget or move on. Like I just cannot. I just physically cannot, especially not this early. And now I know Facebook has kind of become a bigger conspiracy website than QAnon. And
you mean Meta?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for that correction. Meta has become a bigger conspiracy website than QAnon, and I just know up front that I'm getting these facts from Facebook. Okay, so I don't know if they're fully true, but I'm going to roll with him like I'm like a middle-aged parent or something.
Is
Okay.
one of them that John F. Kennedy Jr. is actually alive?
Yes. Yeah, it is the fact that John F. Kennedy Jr. has been signed as the Titans replacement for Derrick Henry. Is there any truth to this?
I did hear he was at the facility working out this morning, but I don't know if they've signed him yet.
Okay. All right.
Part of
Well,
his 7-day tour across America before he dies again.
No, damn it. No, I saw it was actually last night I saw it, and I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm just so scared. Like, I still feel like I'm dreaming. The fact that Adrian Peterson is a Titan, I feel like I'm dreaming, and I'm gonna wake up eventually. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna continuously playing into this dream. But I read that about Derrick Henry's injury and how players that return early from it seem to create more damage. And there's a couple of statistics here. And I want to know, one, if you've heard this, or two, if you buy into this at all. It says players returning before 10 weeks, which we all know it's like a 6 to 10 week time frame for this injury. Players returning before 10 weeks saw an average drop in production of 53.2%. That's a big percentage. While those returning after the 10-week mark saw an increase in production of 9.4%. And then it also says 60% of players returning before the 10 weeks required a second surgery, ending their season and doing significantly more damage. Now, Mike, hearing that and knowing, taking it with the biggest grain of salt ever, because we don't know if it's true, just because I'm reading it straight off of a Facebook post. But do you feel like there is any worry if Derrick Henry tries to rush his way back? And not even necessarily, because I don't think he'll rush back for the regular season, especially if the Titans have a playoff spot lined up. But I'm worried if he tries to rush back for the playoffs and does significantly more damage. Granted, we'll have the luxury of the offseason, but injuring himself more could do more permanent damage for him. Is there any concern there for you?
Yeah, I have seen that report, and I do think it was from a credible original source on that.
Okay. Right,
and that lines up with what I've heard a few different like doctors that have weighed in on the injury and stuff like that say, and they basically all say, look, it's the more time you can give it to heal, the better, for sure. And I think it would be crazy for them to try to bring him back in 6 weeks, which would put him back for like the Steelers game, which is, I think, week 13 or something like that. Okay. Which just seems, that would be reckless. Now, if they can get them like 10 weeks, I think puts them right at the end of the season. Basically, that's like right at the final game against Houston. I don't think I'd probably, unless he felt like he just had to have like a tune-up game or whatever, I don't think I'd probably use him in that game. Regardless of the situation, and then you try. I think the target's got to be that first week of the playoffs, and you try to ramp up for that and get them ready, so that, the wild card round, if the Titans do have to play in it. Of course, the ideal situation is the Titans play well enough to earn the 1 seed and they don't have to play that week, and you get them an extra week of preparation and recovery and all that stuff, and kind of get him like 11 or 12 weeks before he actually has to play a football game. So, yeah, I think you absolutely want to be cautious with it, because, there's no sense in bringing him back early for regular season football games. I think the Titans are going to have a playoff spot clinched well before the last couple weeks of the year anyways, and it'll just be a matter of determining seeding at that point, which it's important, but it's certainly not more important than being able to have Derrick Henry fully healthy and as close to 100% as possible, and also B, just having his long-term health protected. So I just think the goal's got to be the playoffs. And I don't think, that puts you outside of that 10-week deal. So that puts you on the right side of that kind of dividing line that they used in that report for recovery from this kind of injury. So I think that's safe, based on what all medical information is out there. And obviously everyone heals different, and all injuries are unique to some degree. But I think that's a pretty fair expectation to set, is that you want to target that first game of the playoffs.
He's one of the best Titans follows out there. Actually, he's one of the best Titans follows Monday through Friday after 5 p.m. Really.
Oh my gosh. Killing me here.
At Mike Miracles on Twitter. No, seriously, if you're a Titans fan and you're not already following him, I don't know what you're doing listening to this podcast, because you're clearly not that big of a Titans fan. Mike, dude, freaking awesome. This has been so much fun. Thank you for coming out of your semi-retirement to entertain us for the last little bit, and we look forward to you joining the Tighten Up podcast in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm just waiting for the contract to be sent over. Thank you guys. I'm excited for the opportunity.
Well, it's going to be a practice squad contract, just for the record.
Oh, wow.
It pays very little.
You're expendable.
I'll have to talk
to
my agent about that.
Yeah, this isn't Broadway Sports Media where it's like, oh, like you're the big head guy, like you're the main Titans guy. No, this is A to Z Sports, dude. Like you come here and it's like you got to know you got
to earn your stripes on the top, Mike.
Right, you're at the bottom rung of the totem pole, man. You're tasting mulch.
You're not going to let me have like decals on my helmet and stuff like that initially?
Yeah, that's right. You don't get helmet stickers this year.
Right. Right, man. So just know what you're getting yourself into, but you're guaranteed to win over here. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that is good. I do like to chase a ring. So
Mike, you're the man. We really appreciate you taking some time.
Yeah. Thank you, dude.
All right. Thanks, fellas.